Canadian inflation hit its lowest point since 2021, coming in at 2% for August. And the big question behind this is, what does it mean for the economy? And more importantly, what does it mean for your wallet? My name's Miles Noack of the Noack Mortgage Team, powered by Andy Mortgage. And today we're going to take a dive into inflation. But before we do that, do me that favor and hit that like and subscribe button if you find content like this interesting. And let's dive into it. Inflation is a topic that's been making the headlines again, especially through Canada. And the reason for that is we're seeing inflation hit a 2% target level, exactly where the Bank of Canada wants it. But for a lot of Canadians who are feeling the pinch of higher inflation, it really doesn't feel that way. Between the height of food costs or the increased cost of renting versus mortgages. And a big part of that story is supply chain issues. Now, I know these started back when COVID was still in full swing, and COVID feels like it was a million years ago, but these are things we're still feeling to this day. Between smaller amounts of employment, supply chain issues, things like cars and certain foods being more expensive because it's harder to get them to Canada, we're still feeling the effects of supply chain problems. And I think we're probably going to feel them for a bit. And I think one thing you have to remember as well, inflation wasn't just a Canada issue. It was all over the globe. Whether you lived in Canada, the United States, Australia, Great Britain, didn't matter. You felt the pinch of inflation. And that leads into the next thing I wanted to talk about, which was government policies. So we saw the Bank of Canada increasing interest rates really, really dramatically to try and counterbalance the increasing inflation. Did they go too far? Maybe, but they did it to try and get inflation back down. So one thing that's still contributing to inflation, higher rent and higher mortgages. And if you don't think your rental cost is tied directly to the mortgage cost, I hate to break it to you, they are very, very close friends, and they definitely work together. So if you have higher mortgage costs, you're generally going to have a higher cost of rent. Another big factor in inflation is, of course, oil costs. And that's being really affected by things going on a global scale that we're not going to get into here. But as the cost of oil and gasoline increases, that is going to directly affect the cost of most goods and services. Because how do we get most goods to us? In a vehicle, in a car, in a boat, in a plane, doesn't matter. Those things all run on gas. Gas runs on oil. Therefore, the cost of oil affects everything. For example, if you go to the grocery store, how did those groceries get there? They didn't grow them on the roof. They got there in the back of a truck. That truck required the gasoline, therefore increased the cost. So when the trucking company has to put forth the cost of the oil and increase their prices to ship things, the grocery store is going to increase the price of groceries to counterbalance that increased cost to them, and we have to eat the difference. It's kind of a pain in the butt, but it's the way our system works, and it's kind of where we're stuck with it. So everything is tied into oil. Everything. But it's not just grocery and taxes and interest rates that's pushing inflation up. We've also seen increases in the cost of things like insurance and property taxes. That's also going to have an effect on not only mortgage holders, but renters as well. If the cost of owning that home increases, chances are the cost of renting that home is going to increase as well, therefore pushing up inflation, making it harder for people to make ends meet. So at the end of the day, it's all tied together. Whether you're a mortgage holder or a renter, if rates go up, if the cost of owning that house goes up, everyone's costs go up. Now, when we talk about inflation, here's the kicker. Yes, we're seeing the cost of gas and certain things come back down, which is fantastic. But other essential costs, such as rent and mortgage rates, have been skyrocketing. This creates a situation where even though the overall inflation numbers may be falling, you're still feeling like they're not. And that's because essential things like food and housing are still up when it comes to inflation. So yeah, sure, some things have been coming down, but those essentials that we need every single day are still really expensive. And that is why we still feel like inflation might as well be through the roof, even though it's at 2%. Now, what's going to happen next with inflation is kind of an interesting discussion. Is it going to keep going down? Is it going to get into negative numbers? We don't know. I don't really know what's going to happen next, but we can speculate and take a look at the data and information available. I think we're going to see inflation continue to go down. I think we're going to be in a position where the Bank of Canada is going to keep cutting rates because they kind of jacked them up too high. And another key point of inflation, just because we've got it to 2% target doesn't mean the prices come down. If we look at it, the inflation rate is how fast things are increasing in price. So if we're at 2%, doesn't mean the price is going to go down. It just means it's going up a little bit slower. So the big question is, if we saw negative inflation numbers, what does that do to our economy? What does that do to your wallet? And that, my friends, is for another video. Once again, my name is Miles Noack of the Noack Mortgage Team. If you got value out of this video, please hit that like and subscribe button, and let me know your thoughts on inflation below. What do you think the leading factors to inflation are here in Canada? Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll catch you next time.